Alright, so today we're gonna do the note taker, the express homework on I think week 11. And so the assignment is quite simple. We're gonna build an application that's gonna be write, save, and delete notes. We're gonna use Express as a backend. We're gonna save and retrieve note from a JSON file. Right, so very simple. This is the route that we have. So if we go to slash note, we get the notes.html. If we go to anywhere else, we should get the index.html. We're gonna use a db.json file. This is the API. API slash note on the get should read the file and return. On the post, this should save under the request body, add it to db.json, and then return the new note to the client. On the delete, so this is the route to delete. We should have a query parameter contain the ID to delete. And then in order to delete a node, you need to read the node, remove, and rewrite the file. Right, so very simple and straightforward. So let's start on it. So very first thing, they have us the develop, which I find there is a bunch of file that not really important. So let's quickly go over it. So let me find it. Work. Okay, let's stop. Bootcamp. Boot 11 home. Work. What? CD working bootcamp. Alright, cool. So let's start. So let's initialize. Actually, we can do that later. We don't really need to do it now. First of all, let's have a look around and see what's here. First of all, I don't think we even need this file. This just for here for some reason. I don't know. Doesn't seem to be need, so I'm gonna delete it. We have package.json with some script. We have Express and MySQL here. Even though that we don't actually use MySQL, so I'm gonna delete this too because we don't need that. Index, no, so we have two files. Inside public we have CSS, JavaS, and this one. Alright, cool. So first thing first, let's do npm install. So it install everything. And while it's doing that, let's init on git. Alright, so now we have a git. And save. And when we're doing that, let's create another file, the git ignore file. And we're gonna ignore the node module. Go down, go down. Yep, there you go. Alright. So this is our initial file. Cool. Initial. Alright, now we have an express. Alright, so now what we need to do is we need to build a server. And basically this is what I want to do normally. So I usually separate the backend and the front end is. So I'm gonna create a new folder here called server. And I'm gonna have an index.js in here. So this is my server. Alright. And in package.json as usual, I'm gonna add a star to run node server. Like if I believe even if you do this, it's gonna go into server and then look for the index.js file. Let me just quickly check whether it's correct. I believe it's just doing that. So if I'm doing npm start now, in here I'm just gonna console log. Start. Yeah. So you see it's only I say server, right? Server basically mean the folder server. And basically what it's doing is going to the folder server and then it look for the index.js. So an index file name is quite special. Usually if it's something that so it really depends language to language, but normally is the first file that the application, the language will look for if you don't specify what file you want to go at. So again, this is similar to server slash index.js. I don't think you even need the JS, but yeah, so it's basically similar. Right. So in here, let's build a server. So cons express. You know what? Let's find the starter code for express. This is something that you don't always need to remember, because I don't feel like this is something that need to remember that much. Alright, so hello world. Yeah, normally I just go through something like this. Port. Alright, now let's run it. Okay, cool. Let's try it and see whether it works. Local host 3000. This site cannot provide a secure connection. Ha! I think this is Chrome trying to prevent me from accessing it. Yeah. Huh, interesting. Okay, just run this instead, like directly run this. Oh, okay. I don't need to turn it off. Okay, so we got that. Alright, so prior to we starting to do everything, at least I will know that my server is gonna change a lot. And whenever I change, so for example, right, in here, if I say hello world 2, whenever I change, even if you refresh the page, it will not show. The reason is because the moment you run npm or whatever your node, it's gonna run that application. It's gonna keep the application in the memory, right? In a way, in the memory. So even if you change the file, it will not rerun. It will not even notice that you change the file and load the new program into the memory to run it. So it's just gonna keep the old one until you kill it and then run again. That's when it's starting to realize that hey, there's a new thing, and then it's run the new thing. Right, so one way to get around it, and I think it's a very good tool to use, is called Nodemon or Node Monitor. This is quite a cool thing, and uses is used very simple, right? So I'm gonna install this, and again, because this thing I only use, that's a cool daemon. Okay, so yeah, no daemon. Okay. So the uses of it is very simple. I'm just gonna install it, and because I know that when I'm on the production, my server not supposed to change that much. It's only when I'm developing, I'm gonna change a lot. So that's when I need to use Nodemon. So I'm gonna save it for development, right? So the development dependency, and this is the way you use it. So Nodemon and your Node app, right? So Nodemon, the file name, and that's it. you can so this is a document. You can actually specify what files to watch, I believe. Like what's the file you need to watch, what the file you want to ignore, something like that. But for now, because we're gonna do something very simple, what's happening? Huh, not sure what that is. Hopefully not the one word. So we're gonna ignore all this. Like you can read this if you need, but for now, I'm just gonna go to package and instead of note, I'm gonna note monitor and start. And it doesn't work because it doesn't allow that thing to work. Okay, so this actually prevent me from working. Token is not valid. Okay, let's. I don't think it's a thing, but let's quickly do sudo. Sorry, you don't do sudo in here. Alright, let's try again. I honestly don't know what's happening. Can the find model? Yeah, okay. Is that because? Yeah. Then install window. Nope. Oh, interesting. Let's try another one. I'm not really sure why that thing doesn't work. Okay, so no install no demand, right? Wait, sorry, npm install. Huh, this even more than that. Okay, PowerShell S demonstrator. We're gonna try this one final thing. This is not a very crucial thing, but this is nice if you can actually have it. npm install no demand. Okay, nope. So doesn't work. I do believe that on Mac it does work. This might just be something that related to my PC alone. So for now I'm gonna skip it, but do have a look through this. This is quite nice, and if you need, I will just gonna do a quick video on how this whole thing, this no demand work. But for now we're just gonna like I guess like kill it and then turn it on every time we need to update it. Alright, so that's the first thing. Oh yeah, I need to switch it back. Oh yeah, I couldn't install another one. Alright, so index. Right, so let's do the very simple thing first. So we're gonna need to serve the index file, right? We need to serve this. So we're gonna use path. Right, so what is path? Alright, so how do we do this? So we're gonna send a file called index in here, right? So that's a very easy thing to do. What we need to do is we need to get the path from our file to the public file. So how do we do that? path equal to path. Actually, I cannot do path. File path. Resolve. Where we are right now, going up a level, right? So we're going outside here, then we're going to public, then we go to index.html. So that is our path, right? We're gonna see whether we can like make this look better, but for now this is the simplest way. Alright, cool. So that's our path. Now let's queue the server, run it back, and let's see. It should return us the file. Sorry, the path, right? So bootcamp homework public index. Cool. That is where our file is. Now what we need to do is we can send the file. Send file, and we put in the file path. Right, now queue it and run it up again. And that's the file. There we go. Alright, so we got that. What's the next one? The next one is whatever the slash notes, right? So app, I'm just gonna copy this. Notes. I'm just gonna replace this with this. So again, this is something that is more of a convention. So if you have a variable that needs to be here, you can, but you don't need to use, you can put it as an underscore, or you can like prefix it with an underscore. A convention saying that anything that prefix with an underscore basically need to be there but doesn't need to be used. Right, so because if you don't have this, then this rest is become the request. But so you need something before it, so you put an underscore beforehand. This is still a valid variable name, so you can still doing something like console.log underscore, right? So that's still gonna work. But underscore basically a way to tell other people that there's a variable here, but you don't need to use it. Notes, right? And then that's it. Alright, so queue the server, turn it on again. So this is gonna work. Get started. This going in, and that worked. Cool, good. Alright, so this look weird, and we have an error, right? So if we look into the network, we can see that this return as nothing, and we double click on it, it's gonna say I cannot get it, right? Because the get here, we don't have a path, like our server doesn't serve this, our server doesn't allow it to serve. But before we get into that, let's do something real quick, right? So I see a lot of people going into here and they say, oh, actually there's another thing, right? So if you put in something else, what's gonna happen? It doesn't do anything, right? It's gonna show you this very ugly message, and you don't want that. You want it to look nice. So most of the pages, I believe, I think I can find you something cool. I think Kickstarter have a cool thing. Like if you do something very silly, it's gonna show you like a 404 page. So this is one way to do it, right? The other way, which is the simpler way that we're gonna do, is that we're gonna, on the requirement, what it's actually asking you to do is that everything else basically gives you the index, right? But so for everything else you use asterisk. Asterisk is a wildcard. Wildcard basically suits for everything else. So let's try that, and I'm gonna tell you I think a better way to do that. So if you hit this, it's go like that. right? Whatever you hit, it's gonna go like that. So this is okay. The only problem with this is confusing as hell. Why is it confusing? Like in this, like if you go into a web, a URL is an indicator of where you are. You will not expect to just put randomly anything and then still stay on the same page, right? It doesn't make any sense. Like this page look exactly like this page. Like, so what the hell? Does this still even work? Right? So it's confusing. So what I would suggest you to do is that instead of send a file, the cooler way that you can do is use redirect. And what does it mean? This basically means if you get anything else, redirect to that. And what's that? That is this one. So basically redirect to the root. So now let's see how that works. So refresh it and see how it jumped you back to the root. And if you look into here, see, so let's try again. So my path is gonna be 1 to 3, right? You look into here, you see 1 to 3, then you see the root. And 1 to 3 return you as 302. The status code is found, but I believe this is the status code of found and redirect. So it's found what you have, but then it redirect you to somewhere else, which is redirect you to the root one. So now whatever you hit that you doesn't serve, you doesn't use it, what's gonna do is gonna jump back into the root one. But you're gonna say, oh shit, so what's gonna happen if I go to node? Would this gonna redirect me to the root one too? And the answer is no. And why is no? Because express routes were in a way up top to bottom. So you say that. So imagine that there's a request, right? The request coming in. It say, does it match this? Yes. Then okay, serve this. Then it go down. Does it match this? Yes. If it does, then match this. Then when it doesn't match both of them, then it's gonna go and find this one. So normally you would want this to be at the very bottom, because you don't want to, like, if you put it on the top, it basically gonna take everything and then gonna run this one, and you don't want that, right? So you want that wildcard thing to be at the very bottom of your page, right? And you can use. So use basically mean anything. It doesn't need to be get or post. So if you use get, this means get request. Post mean post request, but you can use basically mean everything. Right? So now we got that. Let's go to the next problem. So the next problem that you will see is that it's gonna show this. Actually, the problem is regarding to the CSS and the JavaScript. And why do I know that? So if I go to the JavaScript, the CSS here, what it's actually doing is, remember this 302 file? So it pump me back to this. And similar to index, this pump me back to that. Right? So it's trying to load. The reason why it has unexpected token is because we are including the index.js here, and when it's trying to load index.js, we're giving it index.html, so it load this whole thing, and it expect this to be the JavaScript, which it doesn't. And similar to the index.css, so this is being treated as a CSS file, which it doesn't. Right? So now, how can we do it? So there's a simple way, which is we have another one, and we say whenever you trying to get assets, is that what I'm trying to get? Yes, assets, JS, index.js, you will serve the file, right? Simple as that. This is one way. The problem with this way is that it doesn't scale. So what happens if later on you have like 10 JS file and 10 CSS file? Do you need 10 of them? Yes, you're gonna need 20 of them, 10 for each, right? And it's gonna be too much. So this is a way to do it, but it's not gonna be our way to do it. So how can we do it? So Express have something that they call a static file. Yes. And this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna use app, use express, static, dot static, and here is where our folder gonna be. Right? So this is how you're gonna do it. So for example, use the code to serve everything that we have in the directory named public, right? So if we have a public directory, we're gonna use this, and we can start directly accessing everything inside of it, right? So it should be, so this is our route, and we can slash images slash kitten. So this file is underneath public slash images, and this file is underneath public dot slash css, right? And so on and so forth. So we have an access here, and we want to serve things directly to it. Actually, I don't think they want to serve directly to it. They want to serve one level above it, which is the public one, right? So we can do it. So we gonna use this. See, how does you use, right? So whether you get a get or a post, this is gonna work. So we're gonna put that, and I believe this is gonna work because if they access, we're gonna serve everything in public folder, and if they try to access, I believe slash assets slash js, so public slash assets slash js. So that's gonna work. They're accessing the slash here slash asset, right? So they want to look into everything that underneath the, so the root of it needs to be public. So this is how we make the root to be public. I mean public directory. Right. So now let's queue the system and then run again. Alright, refresh, and there we go. So now if we have a look, yes, assets, right? So assets, CSS, and assets.js, all files here. Cool. So what next? Actually, let me delete that. We don't need that. Right. The next thing is that we need to, so they want us to be able to type in something here, write something here, save, and then something happen, right? And so in order to do that, let's quickly have a look through the JavaScript that they provide and see what they're actually doing in it. So first and foremost, every var here, I'm gonna change all of them into cons because we are used var. Thank you. Oh yay, see the nice that they're doing that prefix for us. Alright, so let's see what things do they have. Actually let's commit this first before we forget. So got finish the basic routing. Maybe I'm star. And that thing is okay. Right, so the get node is this, right? So an Ajax to the API nodes. Right, so let's do that first. The get nodes, that's what we're gonna do. So let's start simple. We're gonna put it here. Right, so get slash API slash node. So get slash API slash nodes. Alright. So what do they want? They want us to read whatever is in db.json and then return them that. Okay. So let's read it and then return it to them. Okay, so uh, so what do I read? Let's read the file, right? So if we read the file, we need fs. And while we at it, let me just quickly check what is my node version. I want to try the node fs promise. Let's see how that works. Promise, there you go. Okay, so require fs.promises. Okay, so that's what you need, I believe. Okay. So this needs to be a sync because we need to await. So const file equal await fs read file, and so the path that we need is what? Actually, I'm gonna put it down. It's con db file path. So we're here up to one level is the root, and then we go to db, and then db.json. Right, so we read file from db file path. Console log and see what's in the file. This needs to be in UTF-8. Alright, let's queue the server and start. Alright, because this is a get, what I can do, quite simple, is that I can directly access it through my router. Sorry, through my browser. There you go. Alright, so we got that. So we need to give that back to the front end. And wow, this is quite simple. I don't need to do anything. I remember that this does it look like this because we read it from the file. It's basically a text, so we need to convert it back into a JSON. So const data equal parse of file. Actually, I'm gonna call it file data. And we're gonna send, I think it's called JSON. Yes, JSON. Send the data back to the front end. There we go. Queue it. Run it again. Okay. So we got the data back. See how it does the formatting? This is the way that it's realized that hey, this is the JSON. If we run this again, we can see, do I see an API send for nodes? Yes, I do. It does send, it does get data, but it doesn't do anything with the data, which is weird. Huh. Okay, did I do something that does my change of code? Ah, yeah, I saw that. Alright, so the for loop is the one that we cannot change to const because it doesn't work that way. Given that, why we use a for loop? In what word do we want to use a for loop? Let me introduce you to a for of loop, which is for loop but better. So instead of you have to do that, you can do that, and then node is basically equal to that. So these two lines can be replaced by this one line. Hell yeah, JavaScript. Okay, cool. Save that, and I don't think I need to change the server. There we go. Got it. A lot of equal thing there. I might need to change. Okay, let. Okay, anything else I need to change? This clicking this supposed to do something? Feel like it's supposed to do something. Huh, okay. Yeah, I thought so too. Well, let's debug why this doesn't work. It might be my fixing that make it doesn't work, but I will not accept that until I figure out that it actually me. Alright, so there needs to be an on click. There you go. Node list. So there's a click, handle node view. Okay, so we're gonna go from there. Handle node view. Again, so in order to debug it, I'm just gonna refresh it. In order to debug it, go to source, go to index, which is our file. So I know that it needs to be in this function because in here it said on the list group item, which I believe is this one. When you click it, then we're gonna run into the node handle node view function, which I'm gonna click on this and wait for that. Alright, so add a breakpoint on that. So click on it. It does run into it. An active node is so it does have data, right? Surrender active node. Right, so save node button is high. If active node.id, and so we don't have an ID, so there needs to be an ID. So the data that they're giving us doesn't have an ID, and it doesn't work because it doesn't have an ID. Wow, such a nice example data. So you need an ID in here in order for it to work. Okay, let's try. Alright, so we're gonna reload and it's gonna take the new one, and if I click on it, now because it should have an ID, is that correct? Ha, okay, because it said test. Okay, yeah, okay, now it show. Okay, previously it doesn't show, right? I think so. Previously it doesn't show. Yes, okay. So the data is missing. So it need to have an ID, which I did something and it doesn't show again. Anyway, we're gonna ignore that because I'm gonna delete them anyway. Cool. So now we know what they need. They need I forget what they need. Pardon me. Okay, so they need a title, a text, and an ID, which they didn't give us, but they have us figure it out. Cool. Okay. So ID, title, and text. I need to write that somewhere before I forget. I'm certainly gonna forget. So ID, title, and text. Alright, we got all three of that. So this is what we need when we're trying to save our node, right? So what's the route that they asking us to save our nodes? I can go onto the BootcampSpot and figure it out, but I'm just gonna dive through the index and see where they do that. It's fun. Alright, so they have a save node function, and they have an Ajax, and this is their route, and this is their method, right? So post into /API/nodes. So we're gonna do that. So I'm just gonna copy this and paste it down here, and instead of this I'm gonna have post. Cool. Alright, so post, we got that, we got this, and we will do we need to return them anything? Let's see what, because I remember that in their requirement they said that if you write something and then you hit save, then it should show up here, I think. So let's have a look at their code and see whether they're actually doing that. So when do you save nodes? Handle no save. That look. Okay, so when you save node button on click, do the handle no save. Handle no save, create a new node. It does a save node, which is an Ajax. Then get and render nodes. nodes. Get and render node. What does it mean? Get and render node does get nodes. Okay, so on the save node, we don't really need to return them anything because they don't even use it, right? So again, if you don't use it, just change it into underscore. See how different the color is? Have a look. So the color here is a bit like is fade away, right? So it's basically saying that it's declared but never read. What you can do is again conventional, put an underscore before it. See how it brighten it up. So again, convention. If you don't use a parameter that you want to put there, put an underscore before it. This is just my configuration because I do a lot of coding like this, but maybe on your VS Code it doesn't do that. I think it does by default, but again, if you need that input in there but you don't use it, prefix them with underscore or just basically replace them altogether with an underscore. But let's go back to where we were, right? So when they save a node, they're just gonna ignore whatever we're sending back, and then they're gonna get and render nodes again. So we don't really need to send them anything. So we're gonna do a post, right? And in here, they're gonna sending us this new node, and this new node come from data, right? Now, how do we get the data from the call? So this is where we need to use request. So I'm gonna replace it underscore with the request because now I need to use it. So it's different between get and post. We're gonna get to have to deal with get later, but for now because we're using post, so I'm gonna get the parameter L, and the parameter should be in param. Query? No, param. I believe it's in param. Right. And because they're the same, I'm gonna do deconstructing. And just to make sure, I'm just gonna console log params L. I'm gonna do respond n, so that is stop. Alright, so for now, what it's gonna do is, if they ask me to save anything, I'm just gonna get whatever they sending me, and then I'm gonna console log it out into my terminal. Alright, queue the server, restart it, and this is my thing. Alright, so it send an API. So this is the get one. It's a post to slash API slash node. Right. Again, sorry. You can look at it as in network. So request to slash API slash node through post. This means that it's run correctly and successfully. This is the data, title and text. And let's look into our terminal. Alright, so we didn't get it. Did I call it wrong? Is it not? Routing. Alright, once.
It's not param, it's body.
Request.body. Huh, okay. Let's try again. So, one trick that instead of you have to type everything in here again, what you can do is you can find the request right here. Right click, replay XR. What it's gonna do is gonna try and run your API again, like that request again. You click on it, so that request is basically similar to that. It's just different in time. And nope. Request.body param. Let's quickly just go through the whole request and see where it is. App post API slash node. Yep, that's look correct. Oh yes, sorry, I forgot. I need to terminate it. That's might be correct. Alright, undefined. Why is it undefined? Request. Let's see what's in the request. Okay, let's send it. Alright, so this is the whole request. I would not recommend reading this. I sometimes read it to kind of find where my data is. By the look of it, it's not in here because normally it should be in. I think it should be in param query, but it's not. Let's see whether we can find this title somewhere in here. Doesn't seem to be in here. Okay. Express access re post request param. Yes, okay, I forget. You need something like this. Correct, correct, correct. Because this is what we call, I believe this is what we call a middleware. So this is the another layer when you got the request to how you handle that request. You need something like this. So this is one of the so this is a body parser. So it parsed the body of the request and then get you the data out. Yes, I totally forget about this. Right. So npm I body parser. Uh, so I'm just so that I would need it to be somewhere here. Body parser. Okay, so param should have data now. There you go. So normally I would say anyone who's used Express need to install this. So it's a middleware to parse the body of the request into like data that you can actually use. In this case, in required body, like that. Alright. So now we got it. We know that it's gonna have title and text. So let deconstruct it like that, right? So now let's read the file. And I'm gonna install the short ID so that we can generate a random ID instead of like finding, like generating something. So I'm gonna use another library to help me that. And you're gonna see me use this a lot. It's quite nice, and especially when you doing your own personal project and you don't really care about no, you don't really care about the scope of this. So this has a very too little chance to actually like conflict with each other, the ID to be the same. So it's very nice to use in the personal project. When you do with something on the larger scale, on the like a multiple, I would not say billion, let's say million or even thousand of people using, or very large data, that's when you really care about. But not right now. Alright, so short ID. Alright, so what is short ID? How do we use it? So dot generate. Okay, so we have a title, we have a text, we pass it, and remember this data is a string. Sorry, is an array, because in our DB JSON we always have an array. So we're gonna do file data. We're gonna push our new node into here. So we have an ID as short ID dot generate. We have title and text. Alright, just to make sure that you guys understand, this is the short way of writing title like this and text like this. And the reason why I can do it is because the value and the key has the same name, so I can omit one of them. Okay, so after I got this, data, we can end here. But normally I would like to send a JSON and say success. Right? It's similar to like I would say if you open any web page and you look at their API sending, like it will never just end up with nothing. End up with nothing is even worse than end up fail, because even end up fail, if you say the front end that hey, the API failed, the front end can show some error message. If you end up saying nothing, the front end will basically have no data of hey, are you failing or not. So I would love if we can send something like JSON success. But before we do that, we need to write to file. Right, so the path is db file path. The data is data. We need to convert it back to string to save to the file. So stringy file data. Right. So let's restart our server and try again. Alright. So now, where's our website? So now, when I start test node, this is test node. If I save here, it should pop in a node. So this is the one that is saved. So say post. That is the post request to save the node, and this is the get request that get the data back, which is that is our thing. Click on here, and voila. Cool. So we get it. Yay. Oh, and in case you said that it's a fake yay, it's actually a real yay, like yay. Alright, so let's do the last thing. The last thing is what? The last thing is delete, right? So let's see how they actually do the delete. So, because we actually have a handle get node and handle save node, we guess that there's a handle delete. Handle node delete. Yay! Alright, handle node delete. When I click on this, it get the ID, and then it passed me the ID. Okay, so there's a function called delete nodes. And delete nodes, returning that. Right? So you will see that the method here is delete. So to match this in our server, we also have the same thing. So I'm just gonna copy this. We have a delete. Yay! Alright, so what is a delete? Delete has slash API. This is missing the slash, and you're gonna be wrong if you're not dealing with the root. Not a big thing, but something that you want to. You're gonna get to there. So slash API slash node slash the ID, right? So slash the ID. That is where you get the ID. So if you go to Express, you basic routing. Nope, doesn't have it. Routing. It's gonna have something called, yeah, there you go. Route parameter. So route parameter is a route that has the data inside the route. So you declare it by using a colon and the variable name. So in this case, you use a colon and like the key, sorry, the key, not variable name, the key. And if you do this, let's have a look at this. And if you do this, so this is a path, like colon from, colon to, And in here, this is the column from. So the column from will go here. So required dot parameter, sorry, not required, request dot parameter dot froms will equal to LAX. Right? So that's how we're gonna do it. So delete API slash node slash, and we're gonna have ID. So colon ID. Right, and I'm gonna use request here. Right, so now let's get the request. So cons node ID equal to what's this equal to? Request dot param dot ID. So this ID equal to that ID. Okay, so now let's try. Oh, sorry, and console log. We want to get the node ID out. Right, so let's restart our server. Let's try again. And let's hit delete. So that's the delete. And this is what we get. Alright, so we got our data. Right, so now the only thing that we need to do left is that we need to read the file. Right, then we do a simple new data. We will do a simple filter by saying data.filter. And so data is an array. Right, so each element of the array is a node. And we're gonna say filter for each node. It will be eliminated if the node dot ID is equal to the node ID that is providing to us. Okay, so this is a cons. So our new data is equal to old data, but it will filter out any node that's similar to the node ID that's provided to us, and supposedly there's only one. So to make sure, we're gonna console log the new data and see whether we are correct. I'm gonna do respond end right here. Again, queue the server, turn the server on again, and then we're gonna run it. I think I explained to you the opposite way around. Yes, okay. So filter is, no, wait, I explained correctly. Yeah, so anything that is not, anything that is equal, right? So anything that is equal to that, any node that has the ID equal to the node ID they're providing to us will be eliminated. Yes, I explained to you correctly how it worked. I coding it wrong. Right, so if this mean if this expression is true, meaning the element will be sustained, right? If it's wrong, then it will be eliminated. Yes. If it's wrong, then it will be eliminated. Correct. Oh, wow. The word filter alone is confusing. But that is how we got the new data, right? So we filter out anything that is not, anything that is equal to the node ID they're providing to us, we remove it. So now the only thing left is to write the new data back. And voila. And let's quickly see how they delete. What happened if they delete? Okay, so after they delete, they do the exact same thing. So they get a random node and everything else the same. So we don't need to return them anything, but similar thing. I'm just gonna return them. They're saying that, hey, we success. Alright, so start the server again. If I hit this, then I should have a delete. Right, so that's a delete. and that's a get all notes again. Cool. So that's it. I mean, that basically is the whole thing. So now, if you're still here, let's do an upgrade to this. This is good, but it's not perfect. Why? Let me provide you some alternative way. Okay. So first of all, you may find out that we are reading the file over and over and over again, right? So every single request, we read the file, we write the file, we read the file, we write the file. The question is, do we have to? So I'm gonna give you an alternative way. This is not perfect. I want to explain to you what's the disadvantage of this. I'm gonna tell you what's a good thing about it. But let's. I'm not gonna tell you now. Let's follow me along and see whether you can figure them out. Okay. So I have a file path here, and before we even do anything, I'm just gonna read the file directly. Can I even read the file directly? I can. Okay, so I'm gonna create data here, and when I listen to the port, before I do anything, I'm gonna read the file. And how do I read the file? I read by that. Oh, I'm calling it file data. Sure, file data. I'm gonna pause it here. Alright. So now, given that I have the data here, what I can do is now every time I need that, I don't read that anymore. I don't need to read the file anymore. I just return the data. Right? And similar here, I don't need this. I just return the data. I don't need this. I just return the data. Alright, because I already have the data. Correct? Alright, now let's see whether it's still working exactly the same way that it's supposed to work. So we start the server. We refresh the page. Hello world. There you go. Hello world. Create new one. Hello to world. Another one. Delete. Delete doesn't work. Is there a minus? Huh, that's interesting. Okay, let's try again. Delete. This delete. Huh, okay, now it don't work. So the note that did I forget to do something? Oh yeah, sorry. So this needs to be data. I think it's already make a change in the database. Yeah, so it already make a change. But because I choose a different way into this. So filter alone doesn't change the original array. You need to reassign it to update the array. Okay, so let's try again. So hello to world. Right, and if I delete them, see that work, that work. Alright. So this is I would not say this is a better way, but you do see that the good thing about this, the advantage of this, is that you don't keep reading the file, right? You read the file once, and then you have the data saved in the data here, and it's a global one, and then you keep changing it, you adding things to it, right? You adding things to it. Go back. You adding things to it, you removing things from it, and then you update the file, right? So the file is being read once, it's being written multiple times, and in a way it's less how do you call it? What the thing they call it? File modification, not modification, file interaction. So like, it is better in that way. But what's the disadvantage of this? Okay, so disadvantage of this is quite simple to realize. Now, let me show you really quick. Uh, can I even show you that? Not really. Alright, so one of the disadvantages I thought at the beginning is because if you have multiple people, I cannot really showcase that. I'm not able to. That's more of a correct word. So what happens if you have, imagine that you are doing this with 1,000 people, right? And again, 1,000 people, you're not gonna go with file. But imagine if you have 1,000 people using this and you still using text, and just any two or three of them actually is saved at the same time. And because you don't check what is in the file at the moment, there will be a cases when you actually gonna override each other in the data. And when you override each other in the data, sorry, not data, this data, right? And when you override each other data, it means that your file will be overwritten. Like saying if me and my friend and me just click save like 0.0001 before him. If both of us doing that like that close to each other, my friend save might override my save. Unfortunately, I have no way to actually showcase that easy, but that is the one disadvantage of this approach. When you don't actually read what is currently in the database or what is in the like our file is the database, right? You don't read what is in the database. You believe whatever you have on your hand is the final stage, and you just like make a change to it. So that is one of the disadvantage of this. Okay, but this honestly, if you use this on a very small number of people of user, and like I was like I said before, right, it's really hard to actually aim to have two people click at the same time, right? It's very hard. So so it will not be that easy to showcase. And again, if it's not that easy to showcase, it might not even be something that you have to worry about. But again, that is something that might happen. Okay? So that's one way to improve it. What else can we improve it? Bum 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 bum. Wait, the other thing that I think I want to, huh? See how we have the app used here to serve the public file, right? And the public file, the public folder, and the public folder also contain not just the asset, it also contain index and nodes, right? So is there a way that we can serve index and nodes through this static file and not using the path, right? Think about that. And when I say think about that, it's because that is something I just thought of. I'm not sure. But my belief is that you can. I am just need to give me a sec. Send file, send header. Okay, what's up? Okay, I will need to research this a bit more, but so for now, let's ignore that story for a while. Let's go with how can we make this cleaner. So what do I mean when I say make this cleaner? So one of the problem that you normally see is that this is not the end. You're gonna expand this to a lot more, right? And how would you how would you even extend this file? How much will you extend this file until the point where you say, okay, this is too much, right? And this is only like one, two, three, four, five, six. Okay, six routes, and it's already too big. I feel that it's too big. So normally what I did is that what I normally do is that I split them into two different categories. There's a normal API, sorry, normal path, and there's an API path, right? And how would you do it? So a normal path is normally I have another file. I'm just gonna call it API right here. And this one, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this out here, right? But and then you say just gonna export this, but this is simple. There's another way. Like, sorry, let me be a bit more clear. So one way that you can do is you can do module export, and you can export a function that get in app. App is like the application that you have from the beginning. You can put it like this, and then in here you can say require. You put it on top here, cons API handler equal to require API .js. Right, so this is one way. So in here, because API handler is a function, so you can do API handler, and it's getting an app, so you can do an app, right? So this is one way. What I'm gonna show you is another one, which is what we call a nested route. And what is a nested route? Nested route is that you see how all this start with slash API, right? So we want to do something like that. We want to say, hey, whenever you do the slash API, run this instead of some normal, which is this, right? So what can we do about it? The, the one way that you can do is you can use the word use. So what's use? So you can do app.use. You say whenever you do API, we gonna use API handler. But in this case, API handler will need to be written in a different way. Okay, and how do we written it? So we still need to export something. But in order to use it, first of all, we need to create our own express. We need our own express in here. But we don't actually use the whole express. You need an app. And in here, what do I need? API, we gonna need an API router. And API router is now what we can do now is I'm gonna need my own code. There you go. Alright, so what you can do now is that instead of app, you can have that. And you don't need this one. And then you can export module exports API router. Right? And because you say that this handle everything that underneath the API, you don't need this anymore. And out here, when you import API router require from API, and instead of this app use, again I used use because in here we have get, we have post, we have delete. So this is not a get or post or delete thing. Use is basically everything, right? So get, post, patch, put whatever you want to have. And I'm gonna have API in here. I'm gonna have API router to handle them. Right. So let's quickly recap what we have just done. I created another file called API, right, which is gonna handle all my API route, and this is something that Express called a router. So I create this one. I create a router. This router say /nodes, post node, delete everything, and remember that this doesn't have a sorry, this doesn't have a /API anymore because this is a nested route underneath an API. And on the main file, we said whatever route that has a /API, we use this thing. Remember this. So /API, this is not the full API. Sorry, this is not the full route, right? Normally you're gonna have /API, /nodes, whatsoever. But we say that anything that match /API, this will continue handling the rest of them. So we make it to go another level deeper, so that in here, if we need to, we can create a bunch of other files that handle each and every one of them, right? So it's what we call a nested route, and we handle it by the router, and like that makes the file a bit shorter. And normally I'm gonna make this one into another one. I think like normally I would call it a public or something to make it another one, but for now we're just gonna keep it like that. I'm gonna move the things around so that it can work. Okay, because I don't need the data here for sure. I'm gonna move all three of them into the API. We don't need that. This also gonna be here. The short ID in the fs. This also be here. Okay, let me quickly check and see did I do something wrong. Data. Okay, cannot do this at the beginning. Okay, if I do this way, I cannot use the data here because I don't have the await. Okay, for the sake of this, I'm just gonna reverse this bit so that we can see what's happening. I'm gonna create a function. Read file, read data. And this is gonna return us the data. and this one is done. Alright, so everything should work as before. I think this is a triple finger crossed. Alright, let's run and start. Okay, refresh the page. Voila. Await API 10. I thought I deleted that. Okay, so if this is sync, then all the read data needs to be await, and if all of them need to be await, then all of this needs to be a sync. Okay, all good. Right. Start path not defined. Path. Okay, so you do need that. Alright, start again. Cool, all good. So now, alright, we got that. Our node seems to working as properly. That's good. Okay, let's try. Hello. Hi. Save. There we go. Alright. Hi. Hello. Save. Delete. Delete doesn't work. Actually, delete is pending. Is something went wrong? Assign to constant variable. I think I know why. There you go. Okay, let's start again. And delete should work now. Yes, all good. Alright. So as we see, this is one way to make it look shorter. So you can do a sub route to make it run to make your file look smaller. And this is normally what I would recommend, at least for the API. You don't need to do it for everything else. Like again, don't go too far, right? But I would say at least create a folder for API and then put it in. Put the API in. Put the API router in so that everything that relates to API should be handled through that router. Cool. Alright. So bum, 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 bum. Okay, anything else that I want to update this? Yes, a bit. Uh, we were so this is our DB.json, right? And we were dealing with this array, and I'm okay with array. Array is fine, but like imagine that you have 10,000 of them, right? So 10,000 of them makes this filter it costs very high because it had to run through 1,000 of them. 1,000 actually is small. Let's say 1 million, right? 1 million of them. So it's actually a bit costly. So instead of that, why don't we just change how we save things in database? I mean, in this file. And instead of the array, let's go with an object. So object, what we can do with the object is that we can have an ID as a key. And if we don't need, if we want to remove the key, remove the node, we can target directly that node using the key as a ID, right? Which is the ID as a key, which is much more efficient. So let's try to do something like that. So instead of this, let's say it's an object. So read data is, we're gonna deal with read data a bit later. This one later. So when you save a node, you have that. And instead of push, now you're gonna say data at, I'm gonna get the ID L. Data at ID would be equal to this. Right? So instead of pushing it into an array, we're pushing it into an object with an ID as a key. Right? So delete now is simpler. So in here, because we use filter because it's an array. Let's see how you can remove a key from a JavaScript object. Remove key from JavaScript object. You can use something called delete. Yay. So we have an ID. We might want to check whether the key exists in the data before we delete. So data no ID, make sure that it exists. Then we can use delete. And not that. Data no ID. Ta-da! And after that, we save it back. Simple. Alright. So now we need to change our read because our read expecting an array. And so we have an object. How does that object look like? Object will look like something like this. I'm gonna go quick and do something like that. Right, so you have something like that, right? And now what we need is we need this to be an array of the value. Right, so we have a key, we don't need the key, we only need the value. So JavaScript have a way to do it. Quite easy. It's called object.values, and you put in your object, which is that. And now it becomes an array of all three values. So that's why we can transform from this format into the format that our application is waiting for. So after we get the JSON and set up that. So what we're gonna do is instead of returning the data, which is now an object, we're gonna return object.values of data. So now it should work as normal. So it's running, that's good. That's the wrong one. Save. There you go. Right? Normal. So what does it help? So the thing is help is only when you delete. And if you look in DB again, yeah, it's empty. Right, so it's only help when you start deleting things. Because the read and the write, sorry, the read and the read and the write, both of them is straightforward, right? Is if you, I think it's called the big O. Yeah, so big O notation. So that's what is called for complexity of the of your algorithm. And previously, when you dealing with an array, assuming the array length is n, the complexity would be n, right? Because it basically need to check each of the element to figure out which node is the correct one that you need to delete. And the complexity, the less it is, the faster your application run. It might mean a trade-off with your readability and understandability, but we're not talking about that because in this case, both the way is simple. If you convert the data like we did into the object and you use the ID as a key, now whenever you need to get one specific node that you have an ID, the complexity of that is 1 because you know exactly where to tap, right? You can delete it very fast. So if you compare the 1 and the n, 1 is always better. Because imagine that if you have 1000, it's not going to be that different because your computer, believe me, is fast. Some of your computer is slow, but again, 1 versus 1000 operation per second, nothing. But start thinking about 1 million, 1 trillion, 1 billion. that is when one is way much better. So again, this will not always be applied, but if it does, maybe think about changing the way you're saving the data. This is a very simple way of saving data, so I can do that with ease. But when you work, it may be harder, but that would be something that you might want so to look to see how to optimize your application. Right. So, uh, am I feel comfortable enough to talk about the this one? Might be not. So let's do something else, right? So again, this is everything that we have been talking about. We did it very well. Oh yeah. Okay. So I just Google it. Believe me, I just random Google it. So what they said is, instead of you doing this, you can do index.html. And let's see whether it works. Actually, I have to refresh my server. Voila, it worked. Alright. So this is how you can do it. Wow, I'm so glad I figured this out. Alright, let me try one more and I will explain to you what's happening. Oopsie. But this worked. Why doesn't this work? Slash notes. Path must be absolute or specify route to rest dot send file. Oh, is that because it's a root so that you don't need to? Slash? Maybe. Huh. Okay. No, I'm not feeling confident to talk about that. Alright. Sorry about that. Alright, so ignore everything that I just make fun of myself of. Let's actually look at some of the better library that allow us to do this JSON thing. Okay? So this is a very simple way of writing into a file. So read file, write file, push stuff like that. So there is library that allow you to do this. What we call a JSON database, right? So it's a short, simple file database that we can use for our personal project. It's very efficiency and it doesn't cost money. So yeah, simple. So the one that I want to show you is I think called DB Node DB JSON. Okay, ignore this. Ah no, why does it crash? Uh, okay, ignore that. If I do find a way to do it, I will show you. Okay, so this is a very new thing. I remember there's another one, but I couldn't find it. So this is one of the things that I find that okay. So what they did is they will create this file for you, and you can basically push to the path. So the path is how deep you want it to be. So seeing here is if you want to slash one sub a test, it's gonna be it doesn't really tell you. This is not that. So this what test 3 new test JSON import 5. Uh, this is not similar to that. Alright, but their way of saying is, you mean data one? What is test one? So you can access the the object, sorry, not the object, the property of an object by using slash instead of dot. So you access it by saying get data, and you get the data using the path. So this is one way, like this is the proper way that like someone built a library to do it. So let's just like go and have fun and try this thing out and see whether we can upgrade our library, sorry, our approach into that, right? Right, so let's try it. So we're gonna install it. Again, this is very optional, and I would not even recommend you to go through this because see, this is published 24 days ago. Not many people are using it, but from time to time, you're gonna have to use this kind of package when no one actually using it. It's just because it's suitable for whatever you want to do, and sometimes it's fun to go around and have a look at what is available. And someone already told me that if you stuck with a problem and you can think of a solution, try to Google it. I'm pretty sure that there's someone already think of something like write a package, write a library that already do it.